ZAT is one of the most important entrance exams in India, especially known for its decision-making and essay writing component. Over the years, ZAT has been the gateway to XLRI and other top B schools. With ZAT exam just around the corner, it's time for students to prepare for last-minute strategies to maximize their score. And to discuss this, we have students who have excelled in the ZAT exam with top scores. We have with us Vrinda and Amar, who are students at Great Lakes, Gurgaon. Guys, could you start by sharing how ZAT stands out as compared to exams like CAT and NMAT?
So ZAT has a very tricky exam pattern, and also the preparation of ZAT is really different. So in CAT, if you can notice, you have section-wise exams. In ZAT, you can switch to any section, and also it is a longer duration of exam. So you really need your focus intact for all 3.5 hours, I guess. Yeah, 3.5 hours exam goes on, but it is very easy to figure out your strengths in ZAT. So you can score and give more time on that question. So this is how I think ZAT is.
Another thing I would like to add, like in other exams, what you see, you have sectional cutoffs for time, right? But in ZAT, you have a combined time slot, and in that you can attempt whichever section you like. So I think that provides you a kind of flexibility also. But at the same time, it's more about how you personally manage your time during the entire exam. I think from time perspective, management perspective, I think ZAT becomes more difficult as compared to other exams.
As you mentioned, it is very easy to identify your strength in the ZAT exam. How's that?
Because in all three sections, one thing is very common, that you have to have your comprehension skills really well. So it will help you in your verbal section as well. Also in cons, because that has very lengthy questions in cons as well. So you really need to have your comprehensive skills to be intact. And in decision making also it helps. So if you have figured it out, and the structure of that syllabus is very fixed from year to year. So some questions from this topic, some questions from this topic, you can identify what strengths you are in. So for the first 1 hour, you just play on your strengths, solve as many questions of your strength you can see, and then you can experiment with other questions.
And you can shuffle between the
Yeah,
questions.
yeah, you can shuffle.
But one important thing I would like to add, like mostly students think that since there is no sectional cutoff, no, you can spend as much time you want on one particular section. But even though in the ZAT exam there is no time division, but in most of the colleges, when it comes to admission, then they have a sectional cutoff also. So I think students should not just do only verbal and decision making, or just quant. No. You should have at least some amount of questions, some amount of marks, which you should aim that, okay, even if this section of mine is weak, I will score at least this amount of marks. So I think that also should be kept in mind.
Is it specific to XLRI or for other colleges as well?
I think it's for XLRI does that. It has around 85 percentile for quant, and if you're aiming for HR, it's 90 percentile for English. So I think you should at least aim at a minimum marks for each section, and then you can play on your strength and weakness.
Okay. And with over 1 lakh students appearing for ZAT every year, this exam has a reputation of being very challenging. So what makes this exam very critical for the MBA aspirants?
After CAT, till you are giving a CAT, you are very confident, like, oh, the la la land, everything will work out. But then you suddenly realize after CAT that something has gone wrong, and even if it doesn't go wrong, this is the first step, examination. There are other stages in your admission process. It's not necessary that every process, every stage will go well and you will end up in your dream college. But through that, I think from last year, many baby IIMs has also started to take that into consideration. So it's a pathway to many good colleges. So you have a good backup as that, because the colleges that you are aiming also take that as well as CAT. So it's the second chance for you to score and fix your position in a great college.
Okay.
So
Do you
this
have a
is
different
why.
opinion on that?
No, I think I agree with you completely on this.
Okay. Could you explain the structure of that? How are the sections and how much weightage does each one carry?
Okay. So in ZAT, when it comes, we have 4 sections. First, you have verbal ability and logical reasoning. Then the other section you have quant. Then you have decision making. Then you have your essay and general knowledge, right? So for the first 4 sections of verbal, quant, and decision making, you have a combined time slot. That is the part 1. Then you have a 5 minutes typing test, okay? And in the third section you have a time slot for general knowledge. I think that's how the pattern goes.
Okay. And how much weightage does each section carry?
There is not a particular weightage, but there is a difference in questions. So it varies from 22 to 27 questions per section. So, and after first part is over, first section, I think part one is getting 175 minutes. You get 175 minutes to solve all three questions, and you can shuffle in between. Then you have 5 minutes of typing time, and then 30 minutes for general questions and essay writing. It's not like fixed structure of weightage, but it varies between 22 to 27 questions. And also after every 8 consecutive skips of your exam of your questions, 0.1 marks has been deducted from each section.
Okay. And at this point, students don't have time to cover everything. So, what are some key topics or areas that you should, that one should prioritize in the last weeks of preparation?
So, like if I talk about right now, no, if the students have been preparing for CAT, then I guess their quant and verbal section would have been done up to quite some level, right? Then decision making section and general knowledge section, but general knowledge section is not counted in the actual marks. So there you have to score a minimum amount of marks. When it comes to decision making, I think it becomes very tricky because the options which are provided to you, they are very close to each other. Oh, and many times you think you might, if you look at the question, you might think, okay, I will do it very easily. But when you sit with the question, you see the right option, then you realize that, okay, it's not about solving the question, it's about how you're approaching the question. So I think when it comes to last minute preparation, they should focus on decision making, which are new section for them, and essay writing. For verbal and quant, I would say that if you have been practicing some mocks, then keep on giving those mocks again and again. If you have not scored good in previous mock, then you can reattempt that same mock after 1 or 2 weeks, when you don't remember the exact answers, and so that you can see that whether you are improving or not. And another important thing, that you should not read any new topic in the last moment, okay? Because the more you read new things, you will just get confused. So just revise whatever notes you have made till now, keep revising them, and keep giving mocks.
Okay. This completely makes sense when students are preparing for other exams as well, let's say CAT or NMAT. But if someone is preparing only for that, what should be the preparation strategy be? And should it be different from what you just said?
Yeah, because the decision making part, it is exclusively for only. That only asks that. So for that, you have to really solve a lot of questions of decision making. It's not that tricky, if I may say from my personal experience, to figure out it. But there is a certain pattern behind every question. And you will get it on the internet also, or from other sources also. If you type just decision making logics, so they'll give you a set of logics. It's not the rules, it's just the guideline. But for example, if I give you an example, there might be a question like, there is a employee, he is doing really good in the organization, but he is also into some misconduct. So what will you do? Will you fire, or will you do another action? Will you take other actions? So it depends on how much harm he is causing to the organization. If it is like considerably low, actions like schedule a meeting with him, do a counseling session. But if it is harming directly to the profits of the organization or the legality of the organization, reputation of organization, then you have to fire him. So these are the set patterns that every question in decision making has, and only way to figure it out is to practice.
Okay. And did you also appear for other exams?
Yes, I did, but my main focus was on ZAT.
Okay. So how did you divide your preparation, or strategize your preparation in a way that you also don't compromise on other exams, and you have different sections from all exams covered?
So if you're preparing for ZAT, every other exam will be taken care of, because ZAT has additional sections and syllabus. Other exams don't. So if you're preparing for ZAT, other exams have been covered. So, and also your preparation would be a much higher level, because comprehension that you get in ZAT, parajumbles that you get in ZAT, also the Quant's question that you get in ZAT, it is actually a level higher than other exams. So if you practice for that, other exams are taken care of.
Yeah, like for example, uh, I used to personally feel very comfortable in quant when it comes to CAT and other exams, right? But in ZAT, somehow I struggled in quant, right? So I think as far as quant, as Vrinda also mentioned, that quant is a bit more difficult as compared to other exams. So I think quant, if you're preparing for other exams, then quant is one section where you need to give some more amount of time, because the level of questions is a bit harder, and then other parts like decision making and all, then you have to give extra time for that.
Okay. And apart from quants, what are the sections that are common in all these exams but are slightly easier or difficult in the ZAT exam specifically as compared to CAT or NMAT or any other exam?
I think verbal ability is of the same level, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a little lengthy.
Yeah, it's lengthy.
On difficulty level, it's the same, but people perceive it as difficult and tricky because of its length.
And any section that you have found very easy?
So it is subjective for decision making. For some people, decision making is easy. For some people, it's not. So it is very subjective on that part. But other sections is more or less the same.
See, the language of verbal ability is, I would say, near about same or a bit easier than other papers, but because the length is so high, you find it difficulty in solving those questions.
I was about to come to that only. So starting with verbal and logical ability, which is the first section for that. What are the questions? What are the kind of questions that students can expect, and what should the preparation strategy for this particular section be like?
So that have comprehensive questions, comprehensions, reading comprehensions. Then parajumbles, vocab questions are also there, and it's this, huh?
Analogy.
Yeah, analogy is also there. So it's the same like other exams, but just figure out if you are good with comprehensions, go with comprehensions. My personal strategy was to solve two comprehensions, figure out which one is the easiest to, and figure out and solve it. And if you are not good with comprehensions, then go for parajumbles is what I would advise, because parajumbles, if you're good with, it is the scoring part of verbal.
Okay, like easy, low hanging fruit.
It's not easy, but if it's your strength, you will score good and accurate.
Like personally, I used to find comprehensions better way of scoring, because like it's okay that it takes time to read the entire comprehension, but once you are done with the comprehension, you are a bit. I think there's a higher chances of accuracy when it comes to comprehension as compared to other sections like parajumbles and all. And sometimes you might get stuck between two options, that okay, whether it should be this one or that one. But when it comes to comprehension, okay, it takes a bit of time in reading, but once you're done with the reading, I think I personally used to find it higher accuracy point.
And do we have negative marking as well?
Yes, we have negative.
And how does that work?
See, so it's out of the total marks, 1/4 of the marks would be marked negative if you're going for the wrong, and that's why I think comprehension has higher accuracy. That's why I used to focus more on the comprehension part, because when it comes to parajumble and all, I personally was not that much great in that. So my negative marking used to be much higher in those cases. So I used to focus on that. Okay, these are the comprehensions. First, I will attempt the comprehension part, and then I would move to other sections. Of that, okay, which one can I do?
Okay. So decision making is the trademark section of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are the kind of questions or what are the kind of scenarios that students should prepare for, and what can be the preparation strategy for ethical dilemmas or analytical questions be like?
So what I used to do, like first when I started giving mock tests, I gave 2-3 mock tests and I was not scoring good in these mock tests as far as decision making was concerned. Then what I did, I went through previous year, for 4-5 years previous year questions, and I categorized the entire set of questions into various categories. Like you have, like I identified that it might be the business scenario is changing, the language of the question is changing, but more or less the question is based on gender equality and business profitability. It's more based on technology and nature. No. So the contradiction part or the dilemma part is remaining more or constant. Just the language and the setup of the question is changing. So I categorized them into 10-15 different kind of dilemmas. Then I went through the options that okay, for this particular, like for gender equality and business profitability, what is the correct answer, official correct answer, and why has it been chosen? No. For example, one common thing that I noticed was that never go with the option which is highly radical. No. So when I read the, because in decision making it's not about finding the right answer, it's more about eliminating the wrong answer, right? Yeah. So if out of the 4 options, if you find an option which is highly extreme or radical, then first eliminate that. Then you must have an idea that, okay, when it comes to profitability and ethical, I have to see, I have to focus, I have to look for option which has the uh, maximum profit to maximum amount of people. So if that any of the options fit into that criteria, I used to pick up that option. So I think that was the thing.
So, as mentioned by Amar, a person that who wasn't very good with decision making, and I was good at decision making. So for both the people, the strategy to prepare for decision making is the same. Solve previous year questions or solve mock questions as much as you can. So giving a mock is not that important, but analyzing that mock is way more important, is what I feel. Mock I used to give in 3 hours, and I used to analyze it for 6 hours. So this is how it can improve your decision making.
And what are some other resources where you can prepare for such questions like ethical dilemmas and all of these?
So there is a series of mocks, I guess, of different institutes. IMS has its mock, Times has its mock. Other also there. So mock is the Bible, I guess, right now for the last minute preparation. Don't go for any other extra books, because in books topics are very lengthy, and you don't have the time to go through it. So just go through mocks, their solution, and analyze it. Just give as much as mocks as you can.
And another important thing I would like to add that see, you might get up plenty of questions online on plenty of platforms, right? But when you start reading the solutions for these questions, no, many a times many of these platforms, they don't have that much accurate explanation, no. And if you start building your concepts based on those explanations, you might end up somewhere wrong. So okay, if they have provided you an answer, see the answer, but apply your own logic, that why should this answer should be chosen over others, no. And so based on this, because I used to solve mocks, I used to give I used to follow cat king, I used to follow career launcher, I used to follow an academy. But again, I never used to rely much on the solution part. And if you want to rely, then you have to build your logic of searching the right answer based on the previous year questions, official questions which were provided, and the official answer which you have.
Okay. So what you previously mentioned is there are some 10-15 categories of dilemmas that are there,
Yes.
more or less.
Yes.
And the questions would revolve around these
Yeah,
categories only.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
from these categories, you can identify that this is, the most probable answer for this particular question, and which comes out of practice. Okay, cool.
And also, I would add a point here. When you are analyzing decision making section, don't look at the correct answer when you are analyzing it. Try to resolve it, because it is like decision making is, if you see the correct answer, your brain will automatically start thinking of the logics which will support that answer. It's not that you are naturally thinking about that answer. So resolve it. Until and unless you are reaching to the correct answer by yourself, by your own logic, resolve it, resolve it.
But again, you have to keep in mind the time that's.
No, no. After giving the mock, when you are analyzing it, don't see the correct answer until and unless you reach there.
Because personal bias also becomes very
Yeah.
important, when it comes to decision making.
So by that time, you're prepared for the final exam. Okay. And now comes quants and DI, which are often, put together in the ZAT exam. What are some type of questions that are there? What are the topics that one should prioritize first, let's say in the last few weeks of preparation? And secondly, how is the difficulty level of quants as compared to CAT?
So I think, as I mentioned, quant. I personally found that quant of ZAT was much higher, was of higher difficulty as compared to CAT and other exams. So because in quant you have a bit lengthy questions, and they are more of a case study, case study kind of questions. Like in CAT you have a single line question. You might apply a small concept, but in ZAT I found that the questions were a bit longer. So when it comes to quant, I think you should prepare more questions which are specifically made for CAT exam, for CAT syllabus, right? That was one of the mistakes that I did in the beginning, that I thought that quant I have already done in CAT preparation, so I can skip that part. But when I started giving mocks, I realized that I was not scoring well in quant, no. And then I saw that, okay, the kind of questions that are coming, they are a bit different and more, I would say, more difficult as compared to CAT. So I think you need to pick up a dedicated set of questions for ZAT and prepare on that.
And what are some topics that one should prioritize in the last weeks of preparation?
So it is again subjective. If you are good with a time, distance, volume, do that. If you are not comfortable with numbers, go for arithmetic, because arithmetic is something which you are familiar with from the I guess childhood. And even if you are from the arts background, commerce background, if you haven't studied math in 11th and 12th, but arithmetic is something that you will connect instantly. So if you're not good with maths, go for arithmetic, but also do some important topics like time, speed, and distance, whose 2 or 3 questions are like there in the paper. It would be there for sure. So just do 2 3 chapters additional, because arithmetic also the difficulty level might go up and you cannot do every question of arithmetic in the exam. So do 2 3 chapters additional, and also while you are giving mock, just practice 3 chapters for one mock and try to solve that in that section and try to make it accurately correct. So then other 3 chapters, so now 6 chapters for second mock, then 10 chapters for third mock, and try to do those topics, identify those topics first in the exam, and try to do those topics questions and then go for other chapters.
Perfect, perfect, makes sense. And apparently there is also a general knowledge section in ZAT, which is not common in CAT exams like CAT. So how is GK evaluated in ZAT, and how does that impact the final shortlisting?
Yeah. So general knowledge is not included in the final marks, total marks which you score, but you have to score a minimum, because most of the colleges they specify that okay, this is the minimum marks that you should scoring as far as general knowledge is concerned. So, so although it won't be included in your final marks, but I think you should aim for a minimum amount of marks, that okay, this much marks I have to score, and that's where your newspaper readings becomes very very critical. Because you can't just in the last 1 month you can't just mug up with the monthly magazines current affairs and think that okay, I'm prepared for the general knowledge section. You have to inculcate a habit of reading newspaper for the last, I think, at least 3 4 months, so if you want to perform good in general knowledge.
And are those 3 4 months sufficient
Yeah,
to
mostly
brush
it
up on
is.
the GK?
Because GK section doesn't only have current affairs. It's like a myth, and people use it as a synonym, that current affair and GK. But it's also questions like from history, about brands, businesses. So there's varied topics. So you cannot really prepare for GK on the last moment. It's like if you are reading it from before, then you'll score. But um, some minimum scores, there are some questions that would be very easy and common sense wale questions. So you will go through it, but in the last moment, you actually cannot prepare for GK.
See, another point that, as Vrinda mentioned, that static GK is also will form a some component of the entire paper. Okay, and that static GK you won't find in the last monthly compilations of the latest news. So for that, because general knowledge is not, they are not just checking on what kind of information you have gathered. They try to get a sense of your general awareness, how much you are aware of the outside world, of the events happening around you nationally and globally. So I think that will come only with newspaper reading.
All right, all right. Any other sources or resources that you find useful?
Again, last year papers, and you will find a pattern, which questions are asked, what categories, what topics. So just brush up on those.
But all in all, they don't ask you for more than last 6 months.
Yeah, no.
I personally used to read the Hindu newspaper,
Okay.
and apart from that, I have been preparing for other civil services examinations. So I was in the habit of reading newspaper. Come and end of the see, you can read newspaper on a daily basis, but you don't have to make notes, because many of the students, what they do, they start reading the newspaper and they spend hours and hours in preparing the notes. So, but I think that's not required. You read the newspaper, and at the end of the month, you can get a hold of one of the monthly magazines, where you will get the entire information compiled. So I think that is a better rather than making your notes and spending your hours on just noting down things.
And how much time in a day one should spend on reading the newspaper?
I think 40 45 minutes is okay. 45 to 1 hour is okay.
And now coming to the essay writing section, writing an essay with time constraints can be very challenging, right? So what should students focus on while writing an impactful essay in the
So
exact
essay
exam?
writing comes at the end of your exam. when you are exhausted, like last times of the exam. But also there is one optimistic point that you can look for is your exam is done, the pressure is gone. Now essay writing is not of that pressure to your head. So you just go and write whatever comes to your mind. So I would say just have a few structure, a few essays for like different topics. If it is about some brand, or if it is like you can correlate points, just have a structure of essay in your head, that in the first paragraph you will write introduction, then the body, then this, that. So you fix the structure and go according to the topic, you write it.
But what students struggle is with, finding the relevant information or gathering relevant knowledge about that particular topic, because the topic that you might have in mind and that you think that this might come in the exam, which might not happen. So there can be absolutely a very different topic that you might have never maybe heard of. How can you approach that particular essay?
So what I used to do in my mocks is I used to take a minute before writing it. I used to make a mind map that this is the topic. If I don't know about the topic, I'll just read it 10 times. If you read something 10 times, there will be thoughts that would be pouring in your mind. It will start coming in your mind, and just structure it accordingly and write it.
And how specific or broad are the essays? Let's say if I were to take an example, are the essays more about the category or are they more about the topic? Are you getting my point? Let's say if I'm asking about politics, so do they ask about politics in general, be it be democratic or social or whatsoever, or do they ask about a particular instance from a
No, I think they are more open. Like one of the, just to give an example, one of the questions was on, I think on uh, democracy and capitalism.
right, right.
Can they coexist, right? So I think most of the topics which are provided, they are open to your interpretation. And like you should not just keep on worrying about how that I should gather more and more information, and then I will be better prepared. Because essay writing, okay, you need to have a minimum amount of knowledge, but it's more about how you articulate that knowledge into a well structured format. No. So for the, as Vinda mentioned, that for the first 10-15 minutes you should just uh, structure down, okay, this will be the format. For the beginning part, what I personally used to do, I used to have an opening quotation for different topics. Like I have categorized it, okay, these are the 15 topics on which, on near about uh, I might get a
Most
topic.
essays have
Yeah,
come.
yeah, most probable topics. No, for all of these, I have an opening quotation or opening line that, okay, this is the way I will be beginning my essay. So if you have prepared for that, I think the topic might be a bit or more or less different, but you can one. I think one of the 15 options might, in 90% of the cases, it will click. So that's how you will start. And the first 10-15 minutes, so I know that you are exhausted and you have limited time. So the moment students get the question, they started just writing them. But what happens that after 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you realize that you are going nowhere. No, you don't have a direction in your essay, and then you just, and after that 25 minutes, you spend more time on thinking. So it's better you spend that 10-15 minutes in the initial part, and you know that,
Then
okay,
you have a structure
you
prepared
will
in
have a
your
better
mind.
structure, and I think the entire clarity and the connectiveness would be much better.
And also the evaluation of essay is done at the time of the GD round. If you're shortlisted for GD, then they'll go through your essay and evaluate it. So so the point of asking you for an essay is actually to know your perspective. So if you read a topic and if you don't have the statistics for that, it's okay. They're just asking your opinion, what you feel. So as Amar said, there is no there is no mandate to have information or statistics for that particular topic, but just try to make your point and your perspective look structured in your essay, is all they are
All
looking at.
right. Also, from previous year papers and mock tests, do you get an idea of what kind of essays can come, or at least the category of essays? Let's say more from social or brands or anything else that might have come in the previous years, so that you get an idea of these are the categories that I should be reading more about.
Yeah, it is actually very defined from past paper patterns. There are like 10 or 12 categories. For example, politics, they won't ask a specific topic. Like politics, they won't ask any specific topic from the political happenings, but your views on it. So if even if you search it online, just put essay topics for ZAT or essay patterns for ZAT, you will get like 10 categories, and you can prepare accordingly.
See, most of the topics which are provided for essay part, they are based on the major debates which is going on in the current world, right? You might get a question on sustainability versus economic growth. No, you might, as I mentioned, democracy versus capitalism, or you might end up with uh, job requirement versus climate change, something like that, right? So the questions, in most of the cases I have seen that the topic of the essay is more or less based on the debate which is going on in that current year which you're giving that.
And when should one ideally start preparing for ZAT? And given the overlap with the CAT exam as well, how can they align their preparation for ZAT and CAT simultaneously?
I think you should get started. Like if you are uh, if you have an idea that okay, I will be appearing for ZAT also, and I think when you're preparing for CAT, then only you can include the ZAT part, specifically these two different sections, decision making and essay writing. You can include like on a daily basis, you can say that okay, 1 or 2 hours I will dedicate to these particular sections which are exclusive for ZAT. No, and once you have given CAT, then you can go all in and prepare for all the dedicatedly to ZAT.
Um, for that, if you're preparing for from the starting, it's actually good for your CAT also, because the level of that questions again is a level up. Um, and for decision making, you need an hour extra a day. So from whenever you decide that you have to give that, start preparing from that day.
So mocks are also a very important part of the preparation, right? And once you are appearing, or what should one keep in mind while appearing for these mocks, so that they can analyze their preparation as of now, and how can they strategically improve using the metrics on the mocks?
So in mocks also, in my personal preparation journey, there were stages. For initial mocks, I was not scoring well. So the pressure started to build up that I'm not scoring well. How will it go? This that. But for initial mocks, I have figured out that you don't have to focus more on scores. You have to give those mocks to familiarize yourself with the pattern, also your strength, in which topics you are scoring, what topics is putting you in a difficulty, or where you are wasting your time. So don't focus on your score for the initial mocks. Initial, I would say 4 or 5 mocks. You just have to do it to know yourself more in that exam. Then it comes, then you start preparing. If you have seen your strengths and weaknesses, you start preparing according to that. Then, as I told before also, that for one mock, prepare 3 chapters, then see if you are scoring it in those topics. Then again 3 chapters. So mocks is actually not about scoring; it's about making improvements than the previous mock that you have given.
Got it.
I think when you're giving mocks, the first thing that if you're just starting with your preparation, first you should familiarize yourself with the kind of questions. You should identify your weakness and your strengths. And once you're done with that, I think the first metrics that you should focus on is accuracy and not time management. It's okay if you're taking a bit longer, because in most of the mock platforms, they show that the average, on an average, students took this much time, but you took this. So you should know, I think you should not focus on that part in the beginning. The first thing that you should focus on accuracy, because in CAT and ZAT, even if scoring 50% of the total marks, you are having a very decent percentage, right? So you should, first metrics that you should build your preparation on is accuracy. And once you think that okay, out of the total questions that I attempted, in 90% of those I had an accuracy, then you can go for time management. That would be the second priority for me as far as uh, metrics is concerned. First work on your accuracy and then on time management. And I think and as you keep on giving mocks, time management will improve on its own. But accuracy is something that you have to be very much focused, because many times you might go with your instinct that okay, this should be the option. So I think first keep priority on accuracy and then time management.
And how should one approach mocks in the last few weeks of preparation?
I think in the last few weeks, what you should do, if you have previously given, if you have been giving mocks previously, then I hope that you have been preparing notes that okay, these were the topics which I have not been performing well. So you can pick those topics and give dedicated section mocks for only for those topics. If you are on the platform or the coaching or whatever you are working on, if they have dedicated questions just for that particular topic, like if you're finding geometry difficult, then just work on that part, that okay, I will just pick 25-30 questions of geometry and I will solve it in a limited time. So you can just work on your weaknesses targeted, rather than just giving you can give one or two entire paper mock in one day, but for the last preparation, I think you should give section mocks also for your weak areas.
What I used to do is I used to give one full-fledged mock in a day, and then work on the section that I am not good at. So one full-fledged mock and one sectional mock, and then analyze both. So this used to be my routine in the last days.
Okay, I'll give you both an example. So it is less than 1 month left to ZAT, right? And I haven't prepared at all. I haven't started my preparations. What is your advice to me? How should I start my preparation? What should my strategy be in a way that I can still score decent marks?
Again, the same thing I would
would-
say, mocks is your
I would
Bible.
say that if you're just going to prepare right now,
I don't even have my concepts clear.
yeah. So even if you don't have your concepts clear, we don't have that much time for you to know go through the study material. Just hit on the mocks. Start giving at least 2 to 3 mocks on a daily basis. So even if you are not, just sit through the entire duration of the exam. Even if you know, even if you don't feel like solving, or even if you can't solve, just sit through the entire exam. Think about it, that how can I solve. Give 2 to 3 mocks and analyze the solution part. And I think now the only option that you have left right now is that you can learn through the solution itself, through the mock solution itself, rather than going through the theory part. So I think just give 2 3 mocks on a daily basis and learn from the solution part itself.
And again, giving mocks is not that important, but analyzing it is more important. Don't run behind like I have to give 3 mocks today, and then you are not analyzing any of it. Give one mock if you don't feel, if you feel exhausted, it's okay. Give one mock, but analyze it properly.
And what are some key resources that you guys found very useful during ZAT preparation?
I personally used to follow 2 3 platforms. I used to follow CAT and Unacademy, and apart from that, I had textbooks of Career Launcher. But I think when it comes to material in today's age, I think getting content or material is not that difficult. I mean, you will get it from plethora of options. So the more important is that you know that okay, which if you are finding a particular platform which is providing you a solution in a way you can understand personally, then I think that platform is better suited to you, because many times some platforms might provide you solution in a very long explainable format. Some might provide you explanation in a very short concise format. No, so I think it depends on what is your personal preference and what connects to you. So pick up other platform which is more suitable for you, and just pick one or two platform and go through the entire mock test. What students do, that they pick 10 or 15 different platforms, and they do some part from this, some part from that. Don't do this. Just pick one or two platforms and cover the entire material which they have provided.
Yeah, I went by IMS resources, and the reason for that is, if you are not good, for example, if you're not good with cons, right, and you are giving mocks, then solution that you are getting, if you are getting it in a text form, there might be instances where you will feel like, from where this 4 by 2 2, if it is written like that, you will figure out कि okay, 2 came from this. But if they have written only 2, you will think कि from where this 2 has come, this, that, you won't understand it. But IMS mocks actually have a video solutions, so it is much easier for me to go through it. And also for decision making, video solution really helps you, because they actually explains you logic. So when you read something, you have your own interpretations of it, but when you watch a video, you actually come to understand their logic. So that is why and their series actually have like more than 20 mocks, and it is sufficient for you. So yeah, sectional mocks
Yeah.
also they have.
And one thing I used to do, when I have solved the mock test, I used to look at the solution, look at the answer key, not the solution part, just the answer key. And I used to think that, okay, why is this the answer? No, and then I used to frame a solution on my own, even after having seen the answer key. And even after I know okay, that C is the right answer, and even then, if I can't see the solution, I can't frame out the solution, then I used to go to the solution part. So if you are not able to solve a question, just see the answer key, that okay, C is the right answer.
But can this be done only for quants, or does that suit
For
for
decision making, I think it's more important. Like, okay, I was thinking that, okay, A should be the option, but C is the right. Why is it that C is the right answer? Then rather than just jumping on the solution part, see the right answer key and then think that, okay, why, what might be the possible reason. So as far as verbal ability, reading comprehension, and decision making, I think this approach would be much more beneficial.
And in cons and other sections, you can see the answer. But if you are giving mock, you will see if your question you have attempted is right or wrong. So you actually, for decision making, don't have to click on show me the correct answer. Resolve it again, then click on show me the correct answer. So you will figure out where you are going wrong. Because if you see the correct answer, your mind will, from hook or crook, it will think of logics that will support that answer, and it won't help in decision making.
Got it, got it. Makes sense. So let's talk about time management now. How should one allocate their time across different sections to maximize their score?
What I used to do, that if I find this particular section my most strength, okay, I will go with that section. Like, firstly, I used to hit verbal ability section. Then I used to do quant, because I don't want to do a section which is the most difficult in the last. So because you might get panic and you're not able to solve the question. So never keep the most difficult section which you personally find for the last moment. Make sure that you solve it either in the beginning or in the middle part, and keep a section which you find easy and more comfortable to solve in the last, so that you don't panic in the last moment.
So I was good at decision making. I used to solve like 26 questions out of 27. So first that. So whatever section you are good with, but I would suggest ki first get it done. First section that you choose should be something between verbal and decision making.
Okay.
Because
Why is that?
because in those sections you have to read a lot.
Okay.
If you exhaust your mind, your focus span would be decreased, and it won't help in figuring out your answers. So first do either verbal or decision making, whatever you are good at, but do one section from those two in the starting of your exam. Then you can take di, we don't have di, but then you take cons, and then other sections.
And the essay writing component is also very time consuming. So what are some tips that can help you organize your thoughts very quickly?
So as I mentioned, you should have a 10 to 15 opening statements, that, okay, this, if the topic is near about this, I will begin with this. So first thing, that you should have a list of, okay, 15 possible openings for your essay. Then you should have a clear understanding that, okay, if the question, the topic is abstract, then how you will deal with it. If the topic is more of informational or contextual, then how will I approach it. So if you have that framework figured out in your brain, then I think the time would be much less difficult.
So it's 30 minutes for both GK questions and essay. So GK questions, I think there are like 25 questions of GK. In yeah. So you just have to tick it. So don't sit and think about this question. Ke, oh, what a question? Because there is no negative marking in GK. So whatever questions you know, it's just yes or no. You know it or you don't know it in GK. There is no other way around. So just tick it, get it done with 5-6 minutes. So you have ample time for your essay structuring. So get it done with the GK first and as soon as you can.
And make any structure for your essay in the initial 5 minutes. Like, that, okay, this is the structure that I will follow.
Mhm. And that is, I guess, the lengthiest of all exams. So maintaining focus for continuously 3 hours is quite challenging. So how can one manage focus and still, to avoid that mental fatigue that might come after 1.5 hours?
See, again, I think giving mock test is very important, because if you keep on giving mock tests which are dedicated for that, you get in the habit of sitting for those long hours. No, and if you have not attempted for those mock tests, then on the actual exam day you might find it very difficult to sit through the entire exam. So I think giving mock tests will not only help you solve the question, but also it will make you get familiarized with the long sitting hours that you will have in the actual exam.
And also, what helped me was if you are preparing by yourself, don't give mocks sitting on your bed, lying around, and then giving it for 3 hours, and you will feel good about it. Ki, I give two mocks, but actually, you're not familiarizing your mind with the environment that you will be facing on the day of exam. So I would suggest go to a library or go to your coaching center wherever you are studying, or anything, your college library or a school library, any library that you can access through, and just sit on a table and chair and make yourself familiarize with it. Like you have to sit there for 3.5 hours and not on your bed. So this is what helped me. And also, when you figure out, it is also a plus point for your exam that you are getting so much of time, so you can allocate where your focus. What I used to do is I used to solve verbal questions, but when comprehension comes, and if I start to figure out that now I'm reading it but my mind is not responding to it or not absorbing it, I used to quickly shift to Quants.
And what do you think? These 3 hours are sufficient, less, or more for the exam?
It is sufficient.
It is
Sufficient
I think
amount of
it's
time.
yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
optimum level, I would say.
Just don't
Optimum level.
stuck
Yeah.
On a particular-
anywhere on a particular question,
Got
and
it.
figure out when your focus span is going. If your focus span is going, then just go on the section which will stimulate your mind. So if you go on Quants, it will stimulate your mind and you'll get that rush. Then go back to the reading part. So you
Got it,
just
got it.
shuffle in between.
And lastly, what are some common mistakes that students tend to make? I'll break this down into two parts. One is while preparation. So let's say you're in the last few weeks of your preparation. What are some common mistakes that students tend to make? And secondly, during the exam.
So while preparation, students tend to focus more on what they don't know and try to cover it up. You will feel satisfaction in like last 1 month if you cover it up, but at the exam day, on the exam day, actually you won't be able to convert those chapters into your scores. The thing that will make you score is the chapters that you know. So shifting your focus from what you know to what you don't know actually will hinder your knowledge of the topics that you know. You won't practice it more, then you will focus on other topics, you will forget that topics, and then in exam you are in a mess that you are not scoring that also, and you are not able to score accurately in other topics that you knew previously.
So according to you, how many days before the exams your entire syllabus should be finished? Like whatever you have completed till now, and after that particular point of time, you should only start revising and giving mocks and not touch any new topic. So what should be that time frame?
I think 1.5 months.
Yeah. Now is the time to
One
stop.
1 to 1.5 months, I think.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
should be done with your theory part, no? And just focus on
Alright.
the mocks.
And in the last 1 month, you should not touch
Yeah,
any
but
new
it
topic.
doesn't mean that when you are analyzing your mocks, you'll only solve the chapters that you have done. When you are analyzing your mocks, you have to solve every chapter, because there might be a possibility na you don't know circles ka question, but in exam circle ka question was very easy. If you leave that, then you are leaving your bonus mark. So just solve every question when you are giving mock, but don't go and sit with
So that
the
at least you get to
textbooks.
learn from the mocks, if
Yeah.
not.
Yes.
The basic
Exactly. In
concepts.
the last month, then whatever theory you are learning, that should be from the solution part itself, not from dedicated theory booklets.
Got it, got it. Any parting advice that you would want to give to, upcoming ZAT aspirants, now that we have it like less than a month left to ZAT? How should their preparation strategy be like? What should they start off with, and what should they do to maximize their scores in the last
Yeah,
month?
every year ZAT has formed a bubble of fear, but I get it that scoring in ZAT might be difficult and fearful, but the cutoffs that ZAT exam have for the colleges is really low. Like at 92, 95, you get really good colleges. So scoring and scoring high percentile is difficult, but the cutoffs really go high, really go low. So just hold on, and nothing is going anywhere.
And just prepare for the decision making part, because it's a new section to you. Prepare for it, give it at least 1 hour every day if you have 1 month left. And secondly, for the quant part also, as we mentioned, that it's a bit more difficult. So I think that is another section that you should give a bit more of time. And it's going to be a long sitting exam, so make sure that you are accustomed to that long sitting, and you would be good to go.
Perfect, awesome, guys. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise, and I hope these students will score well based on your insights. Thank you so much.